So I'll call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, could the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Henry.
Present.
Councilmember Mock.
Present.
Councilmember Sayer.
Present.
Councilmember McKnight.
Present.
And Mayor Johnson.
Present. Thank you, Vicki. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for tuning into tonight's meeting. We value our residents and community members, and we want to make sure that anyone who wants to participate and provide input can do so. To provide input, join the meeting via Zoom conferencing services. Use the quick link at the bottom of cityofcarver.com. Information related to joining the meeting can be found by clicking on the meeting agenda. We ask that anyone wishing to address council wait to be recognized by the mayor, be respectful, wait for your turn to speak, and don't speak over one another. Callers will still need to provide their names and addresses for the record. With that, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Councilmember Henry.
Second.
And a second by Councilmember Mock. Any further discussion? All right. Could the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Henry.
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock.
Aye, Christy Mock.
Councilmember Sayer.
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
And Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right. Motion passes 5-0. Community comment. Now is the opportunity for community members to discuss anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Going once, and twice. All right, moving on. We have no presentations and reports, nor do we have any public hearings. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Councilmember Henry.
I'll second.
And a second by Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All right, could the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Henry.
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock.
Aye, Christy Mock.
Councilmember Sayer.
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
And Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. Motion passes 5-0. All right, item 8.1, the authorization of the bond sale. Good evening, Mr. Steinman. How are you doing?
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. How's everybody? We're getting really good at this virtual stuff, aren't we?
We are, aren't we?
Efficient. So tonight will be relatively short here. I included a memo in the packet, and attached to that memo was a pre-sale summary, which is a basic summary of the actions related to these bond issues and the 3 resolutions that you have before you. And I'll just go over those here, and then I'll take questions if there are any. So this is the night of establishing the sale date and the terms of your Series 2021A and 2021B bond issues. And the 3 resolutions are as follows. There is a resolution setting the sale and approving the terms of the offering of the 21A. Same for the 21B. And a 3rd resolution which approves the application and documentation related to the state credit enhancement program for the 2021B. And I'll go over that briefly here towards the end of my presentation. So the pre-sale summary also has a good overview of information in it about the bond process, and it also includes the 2 structures of the bonds that you'll be setting the sale on. So the Series 2021A bonds are structured with a $4 million par or principal amount of the bonds. That minus the bond financing, legal, rating call, and other costs will fund about $3,900,000 in street project costs related to JCP. If you recall, I sat before you pre-pandemic, I think, or maybe it was mid-pandemic. It had to have been because it was mid-20. And we discussed the street reconstruction bonds. And we had a street reconstruction plan, and we had a public hearing on the plan, and it was approved 5-0 on August 3rd of 2020. All of those things are required in order to sell street reconstruction bonds, as are these 2021As. The Series 2021B bonds are structured with a par of $12,960,000, and they will fund a variety of project costs, as I have identified in my memo. Water treatment facility being the largest, that's $10,450,000. And then several projects related to the JCP project. These projects in the 2021B are all water related. And I'll get to the reason why here in a second. So these JCP projects are not in the A bonds, they're in the B bonds. The water related to JCP, sewer and storm sewer, as shown here, $650,000.
Hey, Paul, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you don't have a deck that you're speaking to. You're just speaking to the memo, is that correct?
Just to the memo,
Okay.
yes.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing out on anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. And then the stormwater related to JCP as well for $1,160,000. And lastly, in this 2021B, there's a Carver Bluffs lift station for $250,000. And with an asterisk that cost has increased or will increase. And so these projects are totaling $12,735,000. They're all together as one in this Series 2021B for the strict purpose so that we can apply for credit enhancement on this series of bonds. So in order to be credit enhanced, bonds that are proposed to be credit enhanced have to be in their own series. They can't be commingled in the A's. They have to be their own series. So we pulled out all of the projects that were water, sewer, and storm related, and put them in the B's, and then we can apply for the state credit enhancement. This is strictly, as it says, it is an enhancement to the credit on these bonds. So we'll make application through the PFA for this state program. There's $500 application fee, and assuming approval, and I don't know of any examples that weren't ever approved. Assuming approval, these bonds will receive the state's credit rating, which is a AAA, which is the best credit rating that can be achieved. Your credit rating is a AA. So the Series 2021A will have a AA. I'm assuming it won't change. They'll have a AA rating. The 21B will have a AAA rating. And that will prove to be quite beneficial through interest cost savings. And now I'll just go to the pre-sale summary, which was attached right behind my bond memo quickly. And those key events in there, I just wanted to point out today, we're sitting on March 15th, where you established the sale date and terms. The week of March 22nd, I believe the 25th, Thursday the 25th, will be in a rating conference with Standard & Poor's. On April 5th, we'll have our competitive sale. And that evening, I'll present the results to you. And then on April 29th, you will receive bond proceeds. And everything else I have gone over in my memo. So maybe I'll stand at this point for questions if there are any.
Go ahead, Joy.
So can you explain what the requirement is for the state credit enhancement program and why we're not able to put the 2021A bonds into that as well?
Sure, I can, council member. So the credit enhancement program is specific to water only.
Okay.
the state doesn't let you use their credit rating for just anything, although it's a great idea, I think. But so it's just for water related items, sewer, sanitary, storm, and water. So that's why they're compiled into Bs, and that's why that's the only series that can be credit enhanced.
Okay, that perfectly answers my question. Thank you. That was all I had.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Glenn, any questions?
My only question would be a question to that answer, Paul, where it's our water treatment facility, water being the key ingredient in the bonds, correct?
Right. That's correct. There was a time, Commissioner, that they only credit enhanced drinking water, domestic water. That's been expanded for quite a few years here now, where they do sanitary, storm, and sewer. So,
all right. That answers that. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Lori, any questions?
I had one question just on the process. You mentioned at an April meeting, or that April date that we have a meeting, you present the results, but earlier that day you get an answer. Would we get some communication so that we're just not hearing about it the first time in the meeting?
Commissioner, so on April 5th at 10 a.m., I believe the time is, that's the deadline for receiving bids on the bonds from underwriters. So we take bids in our, well, when we used to have physical offices, we would take bids in our office and compile those bids. I expect we receive probably at least 4 bids on the A's and probably more on the B's because they're a larger mass of bonds. We'll compile those bids. We'll order them based upon the best true interest cost. And then, yes, that actually early that afternoon, we'll distribute the sale results to your staff, and then I will present them that evening at the meeting.
Okay.
So.
Or I think previously, depending on what time Brent gets the information, when he does the calls and check-ins with us before a council meeting, he'll say, hey, good news on the bond, or whatever. Give us just a snapshot so that, it's not the first time we see it is at the meeting that evening.
Okay. That was my only question. Thank you.
Christy? Oh, go ahead, Brent.
Paul, would you mind explaining, I know they've gone through before, but just the background related to bond premiums and how that's integrated into the process?
Excellent point, Brent. So we live in an environment about the last 15 years where when we send out terms for bids to underwriters and they respond, we're in such a low interest rate environment that a lot of times premium bonds are what these underwriters are requiring. So without too much detail about bond math and all of that, the premium, when a premium bid is received, a premium dollar amount will show up as an additional source of funds. So when we won't know till sale day, till after we structure the bonds with the best bid. But let's just take your Bs, for example. You have a $12,960,000 offering. You could get a $1 million premium on that bid. So that means that it's like $1 million source of money that you otherwise wouldn't have had. It shows up in the sources and uses as an additional source of funds. But it's not free money. It's not a grant. It's money that you actually pay a higher interest rate for because higher interest rates come along with premium bonds. However, between the time that we see the best bid and that evening, staff and us have to make a decision about what to do with that premium. because you have choices, but the underwriter needs to know right away what to do with that premium. So you have choices whether all of that premium can just be deposited in your debt service account, or the most efficient way to deal with the premium is to just reduce the amount that you're borrowing, the amount that you're selling in bonds. Remember, so you have this additional source of funds. So if it's an additional source of funds, just reduce how much you borrow by that same amount. That's the most efficient way to proceed. And for projects, I think like these that are developed through the bid and spec process to the most, to the greatest extent, that might be the best option. But for projects that, in some cases, they're halfway through, they have a whole host of change orders. Sometimes folks that are selling bonds at that stage want to keep the premium and use those dollars for other parts of the project. So what is important, what is important in all that is that we need to make decisions on that issue between 10 a.m. bid time and council meeting time.
So a real world example of this, council, was the City Hall issuance. We received a premium, which really, frankly, helped build our contingency for that project. But I'd speak more to the street reconstruction bonds, where, if you recall Dan Monis's presentation, there is, based on if we receive that grant, because the council set a limit of that $4 million for that street reconstruction bond, an opportunity to build that contingency for that. I think I have it right. The A's, is it the A?
Yep.
Street would likely be helpful. The city has had a past practice in most cases of accepting premiums. If the council wants a different approach to that, it'd be helpful to know that now so that we can make that choice when it comes on the 5th.
Yeah, because I would add that there isn't an opportunity for council to change that when I present the awards. That portion of the structure is already completed.
From my perspective, the bond premiums have worked in our favor, like the City Hall project, and I remember us taking that, so I don't feel strongly in going a different course with that. Sorry to interrupt, Glenn.
No, I agree, 100%.
Does anybody else have any strong feelings one way or the other about bond premiums?
Nope.
Okay. So I think we can continue to consider bond premiums. Sorry, Christy, you were gonna weigh in.
No, I actually didn't have any comments.
Okay. Okay.
I would add, if I could, that on the 2021 A's, where there's you have a $4 million hard ceiling on those bonds, because that was the amount that we published in the public hearing notice and you held a public hearing on. So depending upon how bond counsel views the premium, and I say that because lots of bond counsels view the keeping of a premium differently than other bond counsels. We did review this with Mary Ipple, and I think that you would be able to retain most, if not all, of the premium that you receive. Some bond counsels say that puts you over the maximum that you had earlier established by public hearing. But Ipple has said basically that you can keep the premium. So FYI.
Well, we don't have the option of saying, don't make us we're not interested in bond premiums. Don't make us an offer if you're going to include a bond premium in there, right? We get what we get.
That's correct. That's correct. And although the way that you even things out, the way that it washes out most efficiently is if you reduced your borrowing by the amount of the premium. Then you're back to exactly where you started, the exact same amount of money that you had originally offered.
The only question that I had is actually for Dan or Aaron. There is no scenario where we hear back the results of our grant application by April 5th, correct?
No,
It's too soon. Okay.
it'd be May.
Okay. Okay. With that, unless anybody else has any other questions, concerns, comments, etc., we have a few motions to consider. So I'll start off. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 109-21, providing for the competitive negotiation sale of $4 million in general obligation street reconstruction bonds series 2021A.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Mayor Johnson and a second by Councilmember Sayre. Any further discussion? All right, can the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Henry.
Aye. Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock.
Aye, Christy Mock.
Councilmember Sayre.
Aye, Lori Sayre.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
And Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 5-0. On to the next one.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 110-21. The resolution providing for the competitive negotiated sale of a $12,960,000 general obligation utility revenue bonds for series 2021B.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Sayre
I'll second.
I will.
and a second by Councilmember Mock. Any further discussion? All right, can the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Henry.
Aye. Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock.
Aye, Christy Mock.
Councilmember Sayre.
Aye, Lori Sayre.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
And Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 5-0. All right, one more resolution. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 111-21, authorizing the city of Carver to enter into a credit enhancement program agreement with the Minnesota Public Facilities Authority.
I will second that.
A motion by Mayor Johnson and a second by Councilmember Henry. Any further discussion? All right, can the clerk please call the roll, please?
Yes, Councilmember Henry.
Aye. Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock.
Aye, Christy Mock.
Councilmember Sayre.
Aye, Lori Sayre.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
And Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 5-0. And with that, Mr. Steinman, I think you have what you need from us to get us some funding for our projects.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, Paul. Nice seeing you again.
Too.
All right, moving on to item number 5 from the work session, which we held over for our meeting, the trail pet waste stations. Ms. Smith.
Brent, can I share? All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. At a previous meeting, the council directed staff to begin work on installing some pet waste stations throughout the community. We thought this was a great opportunity to get some input from the Parks Commission, people who use the trails, and surprisingly, most of them have dogs, we learned at our meeting. So the locations that they suggested for good spots for the pet waste stations, first is the trailhead in Spring Creek at the top of Snake Trail. Second is near the water tower in Depot Park. Third is near the tugboat on the levee. Fourth is Community Park. And fifth is Ironwood Park. At this time, we are working to pilot 5 of them to see if they're successful before we decide if it's something that we want to move forward with, adding additional stations. If they're super successful and we feel like they are cleaning up the community, absolutely something we can consider moving forward with, installing additional stations. I talked through with Chad, and these locations work well for his team on the rounds that they do, so wouldn't require a special trip. It would be easily accessible for them and easy to maintain. I will open it up for questions.
Go ahead, Glenn.
I got a question. Just, well, just kind of something to think through. We have right down at the corner of 6th Street and Broadway, we have a trail that goes up to Lions Park. We have a trail that goes up Snake Road, and we have the 6th Street trail that goes up from there, all leading to the downtown area. I didn't know, but I think that would be a good place because you're kind of centrally locating 3 different trails. Just an idea, a little food for thought for both staff and the Parks Commission if they want to, just for future reference.
Christy, was that it, Glenn?
Yeah.
Okay, Christy, I think I saw your hand up.
Sure. 2 things. Aaron, I didn't see on the memo what they cost per unit.
I don't know if we know at this point. I don't think we've spec'd them out at this moment,
Okay.
but we feel like 5 is a good place to start just in case they are super expensive. I see Brent Googling. I suspect he's typing it in.
Okay. I think before saying, yes, this is great, I would like to just have an idea of what they cost per unit also. Secondly, when I was looking at the memo and it was talking about Depot Park at the information kiosk, let's find someplace that's not right next to it. Remember, this is a garbage can. So when you walk up to read that, the garbage can already gets, the stinky garbage can is already shoved up against the kiosk. So let's not add the poop bags right next to it also.
That's, Christy, I was thinking the exact same thing, Glenn, for your suggestion, because there's that kiosk at the end of 6th Street as well. And while I like the idea of so much trail intersectionality, if there's any way of providing a little bit of distance there, potentially, although I think, to be clear, I'm pretty fine with these 5 to start out with. Joey, did you?
It could go on the, I was gonna say, it could go on the other side of the trail from the one that Glenn was speaking out to. Because that kiosk is on one side, possibly up a little bit. But yeah, let's not put them right next to things that we want to attract people to.
Agreed.
Go ahead, Joy.
Okay, so Aaron, can you comment on how often do we think these would be emptied? I saw in the memo it would be part of the day-to-day work by public services, but what does that mean? Typically, are they emptying trash cans like once a week in the parks, or
Chad,
what is it?
You.
Oh, sorry, Chad.
Oh, that's all right. Typically, it depends on the season, so 3 times a week
Oh, okay.
if needed.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, that exceeds my expectations, and might help with the smell. And then I know, Aaron, you mentioned, we want to kind of see how popular these are and kind of go from there. So yeah, so it'd be great if we could kind of gather some data. Maybe it's how many times we're refilling the bag, some sort of concrete way of measuring what that means. That would be good to know. And maybe some of these are more popular than others, and we can, then we have some better data on where to add them. That's it.
Thanks, Joy. Lori?
I just didn't know if the picture provided was true about bags. Do we plan to provide bags?
Yes, I would say that's typical for the waste stations.
Is that it, Lori?
Yes.
Okay. Looks like Brent figured out that they cost about $1.30.
Get about 400 bags. But you can spend more, obviously, but that's the range.
Looks like that might not come with the garbage.
Well, I don't think we plan on using the garbage, but we plan on using the receptacles that the city already has. Is that accurate, Chad and Aaron?
Yes, we were planning on using our own garbage cans, and these would just be the dispensers and the signage.
So there'll be garbage cans located right next to them, but not attached to the post.
Correct.
So are these planned to be the rolly garbages then, or more of a decorative one? If we're going to start placing these all over town, now we have the rolling garbage cans all over the place.
They would be similar to the one by Spring Creek, the decorative garbage cans at the head of the Snake Trail.
It's the one that it has a wood facade. It's round. It's not a rolly, put it at the end of your driveway garbage can.
No.
Gotcha.
Nope.
Yep.
My questions and comments are real similar to Joy's. Erin, you spoke a lot about measuring the success and seeing if this program is successful, and I would love more information without graphic details of how, like, what success looks like for this program. Is it full garbage cans? Is it baggies that, are being used and hopefully deposited? Because this is an issue. There's poop absolutely everywhere in the city, and I still have the hypothesis that even putting these stations out, while the suggestion is awesome and it's great to have the amenity, it's not going to make somebody who's not already picking up after their dog a better person and start cleaning up. So I'm just curious, like, what that metric is that we measure success.
If I could jump in on that, Councilmember Knight had a similar question. I think we can ask public services to keep track of the number of bags they put in. But I would say that once we report that data, the success will have to be determined by the council. If you want to expand, or I would say though, once they're out, I think we'd have a hard time as a city pulling them back in, because people will get used to that level of service. So I think probably the bigger question is, how far do you expand it after you get some data about the number of bags that we're going through as a community?
I hope people get used to it and they don't ever want them to be gone. I think that would be great. I think the 5 pilot program to start it and see what happens is a great idea. I'm all for it. And we'll see where we go from there.
Chad, do you have the garbage cans already in stock, or would there be a purchase, a cost included in purchasing those new garbage cans?
We have 2 in stock. We'd have to acquire 3 more, purchase 3 more.
Yeah, I have no objections to this. And because this was a work session item, you don't need a formal vote or motion or anything from us.
Nope, that was it.
Right.
Yeah, the dollar amount, we can, as a staff, we can just purchase them. We just wanted to make sure the locations were acceptable to the council.
I think it looks good, and thank you to the Parks Commission for handling this dirty issue. I'm just disappointed that nobody had any more poop puns. So that's my that's my last comment.
I would like to stop saying that word on camera.
I actually said dirty, but
It'd be hard to pick up from here.
thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. All right, we're good on the pet waste station issue. Moving on. All right, let's, Mr. Merrick, can we get a COVID-19 pandemic update, please?
Yeah, some fairly positive news. You've probably heard in recent news reports the governor's turned down the dial. It probably was more accurate for space occupancy related to indoor gatherings. So we'll be moving, or have moved, our occupancy restrictions to 50% in all our rental spaces. That'll really come in handy for the council. Probably saw the consent agenda Lions pork chop dinner. They'll be able to go to I think 75 indoor seated for their event at the end of April, and could be pending too. The governor might adjust that dial prior to then. Also wanted to check in with the council related to the pandemic on in-person council meetings. If at your next meeting you wanted to start a rotation back for the mayor and then 2 council members in person, 2 on Zoom, or if you just prefer to keep doing the all Zoom style for now until conditions improve. It does, I have to say, it does get a little bit wonkier once, we're doing Zoom in the room with, it's probably a song right there.
It sounded like Dr. Seuss, but yeah.
Because one of the things that I'm trying to figure out, and I don't think anyone's cracked the code on this, is I think everyone's so used to Zoom and wants to integrate it into their technology and use. I don't know a good way to do that once, like for example, I go back into the council chambers because of the feedback issues that we get and the Granicus working. We just have a lot of things working against each other. So just wanted to tee that up to see if the council had any feedback to share.
My only issue with us all going back in at the same time, and I've stated this before, is that the room gets awkward because we're now spaced out in all these different places. So, you know, one of us is out in the crowd area, one is over where the engineers sit. So I don't prefer that. I think it actually makes it more disjointed when we are like that. If we want to start going into a rotation where the mayor's there and then two people, we can do that too. I'm fine with Zoom for right now as well. I just don't want to go back to all of us in the same room trying to figure out where we're sitting and scattered all over the place.
Any other thoughts, Council? Go ahead,
I
Laura.
concur with Christy. Yeah, kind of ranking. I'm okay with a rotation or all Zoom. And then my third option would be everybody all spaced.
Anybody else feel strongly? Glenn?
I got no problems coming in.
Lori?
No, flexible.
I have no issues as well. We just spent a day and a half together in this room. So there were no issues. I do share Brent's concern for the tech aspects of it, which we did experience a little bit of last week, because I want to make sure that wherever they are, can hear us and see us, and that that's not an issue. So I don't know, Brent, I think Chaska's been doing in-person distance, but they've got some kind of system, so I don't know if it's figuring out how they're doing things. Don't ever tell Mark Winchell that I said to go to them.
If it's okay with the council, we might just proceed with our current setup, at least through the next meeting, and in the interim, I'll just reach out to colleagues throughout the metro to see if anyone's come up with a good system that integrates all these technology systems working together. And then we're still waiting for details. The American relief package passed. We're anticipating the city could get approximately $600,000 in funding. Still trying to sort out the details, and so we'll be listening closely to information put out by the League of Minnesota Cities related to that. From some reports, it appears that the city may be able to use some of that funding for infrastructure projects, specifically related to water and sewer. But in any event, we'll want to get a kind of a lay of the conditions, bring that information to the council, and then probably do some type of brainstorming session on identifying priorities, resources, needs, etc. So if there's any specific questions or things you want me to concentrate on, to be looking out for, I'd be happy to take that feedback right now. So with that, I'll move on to my next topic.
Brent, I was just going to say, I'm just curious as to what the restrictions, if any, are going to be on the money, and I think we can probably all put a little thought into what the priorities are, and hopefully with a ton of staff input into kind of longer term, bigger picture items. I'm thinking of, the SCBA's was a terrific use of the CARES Act funding, as well as the building permit software and stuff that we were going to have to get sooner or later, and it saved us a line item in a future budget by purchasing them with that money.
Then the the second issue I'd like to address with the council is some policy verification or even clarification, where I believe in any event there'll be one group that'll be disappointed. So the city's current policy as it relates to field rentals is that groups, individuals, organizations, etc., that reside or operate out of the District 112 are the only folks that are eligible to reserve athletic fields. Folks that reside outside of the school district can certainly use the fields, but it's kind of a first come, first served basis. If they're there, they can use them, but they can't reserve them. And so we have a situation where the Black Sox have a relationship with Crown College and their baseball team where they'd like to facilitate a rental or a reservation of the baseball field with Crown College that doesn't meet the city's policy as it relates to field reservations. To add some additional context, we had a youth baseball team out of Minnetonka reach out to the city last week and asked for a kind of a similar situation, asked if we had any fields available for reservation. We cited the policy and they moved on. The city council could consider making a change. I do think that we, in pro or con is for you to decide, we venture a little bit into the land of unintended consequences where probably more specific to, I'll use the Minnetonka baseball team, where they're out playing and all of a sudden the CCYBA has a last minute need, or an individual goes there and sees a bunch of Minnetonka jerseys playing on a field where they wanted to play. And so I could see a resident then reaching out to one of you and saying, hey, I pay taxes on this field and so is using it. So one of those, I would say, kind of real world day-to-day issues where it's going to be impossible to make everybody happy, but just wanted to get some perspective from the city council if you want to kind of confirm the way we're doing things or say, no, now's the time to maybe reach back out and change that policy.
My thoughts are to confirm the policy the way that we're doing things. I think having that flexibility and availability for kind of our people, if you will, and the folks within the school district, I'm in favor of.
I'm sorry,
Yep,
Courtney.
go ahead, Christy.
I have a different perspective, having a background in Park and Rec and having reserved field out for 15 years of my life. I have no problem if we open it up to being reserved out to other communities. There's generally, I will just call it a pecking order for now that, at the beginning of the year, the priority groups, which would be obviously your Carver groups and things like that, reserve the fields that they need. Then after they have reserved what they have, because those schedules are out and finished long before their season starts, and barring, rainouts and things like that. And then opening it up to other groups, obviously with a fee. They were always charged a fee in the past. I would obviously want another fee charged to them if they were going to be coming from outside of our community to use it. Also, one other problem that I can see happening too is that if the Minnetonka crew, I'm just going to use them as an example, is they're playing or they come to play. So let's say it's just not reserved to anyone. So when we say first come, first serve basis. So let's say Minnetonka is there playing, and now CCYB Estate people show up and say, well, I want to play here. And they say, well, first come, first serve, we're here first. They say we have priority. To me, this draws some more black and white lines to say, we've reserved it, it's ours right now. There can't be like going back and forth of territory of who has it that evening. Or, vice versa. Now you have the Carver team there now, and maybe it's a handful of them playing. Now what happens when you say first come, first serve basis and an entire Minnetonka team shows up to take over the field? I can see some conflicts there. I mean, the likelihood of it happening is maybe low, but it could happen. I guess I'd rather see it scheduled out with retaining some fees than sitting empty also. And then, I don't know who as staff would have to monitor that or take care of that. I'm not sure if that's something that we take care of right now with the CCYBSA, or we're just letting them schedule on their own. With the Black Sox, I guess it could be.
I can answer that, Christy. We take the reservations, and per the policy, there is a priority, as you mentioned, and CCYBSA, Black Sox, and so on are all identified, and they get their reservations in there. There's a time frame that they need to get those in, and those are put in based on that priority.
So as CCYBSA and the Black Sox already start to reserve fields?
Yes.
Okay. And my assumption is, well, I hate assuming things, but they pretty much know their game schedules throughout the summer. Then it's just going to be working out their practice schedules to go along in coordination with them. And of course, the youth programs. I would like to see, you know, if we are going to be renting it out to other municipalities or other sporting teams from other areas, if they're going to pay for it, we already have a good idea of the scheduling, and I don't foresee an issue. I don't foresee it as an issue because, plain and simply, they already know what their schedules are. Very rarely does CCYBSA or the Black Sox also just say, oh, we got a pop up. You know, let's just all go up to the field and get some batting practice in and take some infield. Usually that's pretty much scheduled in advance. So I don't really see a problem with scheduling the fields. But wonder why it was Minnetonka who reached out to us. Brent, you got any thoughts on that?
Pardon, I didn't catch the first part of it.
I wonder why it was Minnetonka that reached out to us, Brent. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No,
okay.
I'm not following.
Okay. How did the COVID field go last year?
It was a youth baseball team. Like
Got it.
Little ones.
From where?
Minnetonka.
Got it. All right.
The only additional thing that I would add, just based on my experience in the last couple of years, granted, yes, they do have their schedules in there, but there are changes based on maybe if they have like the weather where they can't play and then they have to reschedule. And then also, especially last year with COVID, they had a lot of changes just because of other things that came about. I don't know what will happen this year, but they do have changes that come about throughout the year that they didn't know about early on. So there would then be that risk that, well, we have to say to our own groups, even though we said in the policy you need to have your reservations in by a certain date, there could be the opportunity that if they did need it for a makeup game or something like that, that we have to say, sorry, it's already reserved. So.
Well, then maybe we could like book open dates and just kind of leave the fields just for rain dates. You know, schedule out, you know, maybe, I don't know, 4 fields a week, maybe 5 fields a week for rain days. And if they're not needed or wanted, then that we can rent those out too.
And make up for rain for sporting outside, it just happens. Figure it out. I mean, it's just how it works in Minnesota.
I think where I'm coming from in my opposition, specifically to the Black Sox field, is it's sounding to me like this is a private college who's looking to make this be their home field. And that just seems like a disconnect. I'm not sure why they're in need of the facilities. But boy, it seems like something that they should have on their own without having to come to the city. Joy, Lori, any thoughts?
I guess I don't have any experience with this. I don't have any really strong feelings. I like the way that we prioritize things so far. I don't have a sense if that leaves open a bunch of empty fields even after CCBYA and Black Sox have scheduled, that there's still a ton of open time that could be rented out for money, for fees coming into the city. I just don't have a good sense of that. And I know COVID has probably messed everything up, so I don't know if we have a good baseline. So I don't feel strongly either way. I like the priority we've set through the policy so far.
Lori?
Probably really similar to Councilmember McKnight. Just too, with the COVID, we don't have a baseline. I could support renting out the fields just because it would be a revenue stream for us. But I would definitely want to communicate to the groups that are on our priority list that we're going to open it up and then probably establish a date and say, please get your schedules filled in before we, open it up to other groups.
All right, so it looks like there's a majority who is in favor to opening it up to other communities to use Carver Fields.
But what we would do is, I'd work with Vicki and we just and Chad, we'd probably do a review of the field reservation policy, include that as a component of the discussion and have you discuss for possible action at your April 5th meeting. And then the last thing I have is Sheriff Cameron reached out. He wants to connect with the council on some work that they're doing. And so he's scheduled to come to your April 19th work session at 5:30. So just a FYI. That's all I have. Thank you.
That's good. Thank you. All right. Council member communications. Joy, do you want to start?
No, I don't have anything. We have a business council meeting on Friday, and I have a Southwest Transit meeting next week or the week after, I forget. So updates coming.
All right. Christy?
Two updates, from the Carver Lions Club side of things, the fundraiser that was done for the Soggy Bottom this year. We did do the big check handoff to the recipients, so Jill and Mike Curry. So we did raise $2,500 for the family, which without having any other source of revenue besides selling hats and begging for donations, there's no event this year. That's we're very happy with that amount. So we did present them with that check. And then for Steamboat Days, we are having our first Steamboat Days meeting for our committee group next week. A lot of things from last year are just carrying over from the year before to this year. So we had a good plan started last year. Hopefully that makes it a little easier as we get going. But we are planning for Steamboat Days. So here we go. I guess after that, I can't say anything more than that. Here we go. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Lori?
Last Monday on the 8th, we had the Parks Commission meeting, and Chaska Parks and Rec presented, and the commissioners just did a great job of having a dialogue with them and sharing ideas because they were asked for ideas. And then also we saw earlier in the meeting the recommendations for the dog waste station locations. So they got a lot done in that meeting. So appreciate all of them volunteering their time.
Glenn?
Planning Commission for this month has been canceled. Christy, when is the Steamboat Committee meeting? What day and time?
I believe it's the 23rd at 6:30 off the top of my head. Is
okay.
The Connect outside, is there something you might need?
Perfect. Well, yeah. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
All right, thank you. So a few updates from me. After our last council meeting on March 3rd, Rob Olson and John Catu from Fox 9 were in town, and they did a story on the flood outlook, which this year is good for those of us living in Carver. There's not, the flooding is not predicted to be bad this spring, which is maybe the first time that I can remember that there haven't been spring floods. I know last year we certainly had plenty of water downtown. So that was cool to see. Heads up, everybody has probably already noticed, but while all of the communications materials for the Jonathan Carver Parkway project say that construction will start in earnest on March 22nd. It probably officially started last week with a lot of activity in the roadways, so be really, really, really careful when you're driving through there. Go slow. There were folks out there working, and there were some lane closures even this morning before the snow started falling. Let's see, tomorrow morning, thanks to Representative Nash, there is a hearing for the bonding in front of the House Capital Investment Committee. So I will be testifying about our levy improvement project. I also got an email today from Senator Coleman, who said that it doesn't appear to be making as much progress. Our request for $9 million in the Senate. However, she is trying to work to get us connected with some folks in the Senate and try to get us on the Senate's bonding tour. So those of you, I'm sure you guys all remember 2 years ago, the House bonding committee came out to Carver and did the tour, and we walked them through downtown. It was cool because we were able to show them like physically what Carver looks like and where this investment is going. So she is working to try to get us as a stop on the bonding tour that would take place this summer. The only other information that I have is a Carver resident, Ashlyn Dom, received honorable mention in the League of Minnesota Cities Mayor for a Day contest. So I don't know if you guys have seen it in the league's newsletters, but they have a contest. It's for elementary and I think middle school students. I believe that Ashlyn is in 6th grade, and she wrote just a really poignant letter, and she received honorable mention for that. So I would like to figure out a way to recognize her. I don't know if it's a proclamation or what, but I just wanted to float that in front of council. I want to invite her into one of our upcoming city council meetings and just make a little bit more formal. I've always seen that, and as an auntie, I've thought that I want to get my nephews to write an essay. I don't know that that's going to happen. So second only for this proud auntie would be to have a kid from Carver do so well. And she did a really, really great job. So would love to kind of write up a proclamation and have her come in and participate in a council meeting. So unless you guys have any objections, I am going to work with Brent in moving that forward. Okay, that was it. Let's see, let me just double check. I think that was all of my updates for tonight. Yeah. So I think that brings us to the end. So unless anybody has anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A motion by Glenn Henry.
I'll second.
And a second by Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All right, can the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Henry.
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock.
Aye, Christy Mock.
Councilmember Sayer.
Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
And Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes 5-0. Have a good evening, everybody.